we go. Hi, everyone. This is Josh Olson with Angel Flight West, hosting the webinar for arranging no-cost transportation for your patients. We're waiting for a few others to join us, and we'll get started in a few minutes. Thank you. For those of you just joining us, thanks for joining this webinar on no-cost transportation options for patients that need access to healthcare. I'm Josh Olson with Angel Flight West, and we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started here. Again, my name is Josh Olson. I'm the Executive Director with Angel Flight West. We thank you very much for joining us. We see every day patients that come through our office that are in need of healthcare that can often change their lives, and many of them don't have access to it. We'll get into some of those numbers and resources in a little bit, but also want to gain from you your expertise in the field to help us better serve you and your patients. This webinar will last, we've allotted an hour, but it will most likely take 45 minutes or so. And there will be some time for questions and answers. So if you'll see, there's a little widget on your Google Talk that allows you to ask questions. You can use that at any time, and it'll pop up question to me, and we can answer those at that time. So if you have questions, please let us know. And also, please let us know who you are and how we can best help you afterwards. We want this to be an interactive thing. We're here to serve you and your patients, and some of the resources we share want to do the same thing. So we want to make this as interactive as possible so we can ultimately help each other do what we do best, which is serve. So again, I'm Josh Olson with Angel Flight West. For those of you who have not heard of Angel Flight West, we are a group that arranges free air transportation for people traveling to and from healthcare that couldn't otherwise access or afford it. We provide this service using volunteer pilots that donate their own aircraft time and money to fly people from an airport closest to their home to an airport closest to the medical facility, and in several cases we have volunteer drivers that then drive them to and from their treatment. We have been around for 35 years, and we're started by a group of pilots. We fly throughout the western half of the U.S. and then work with other Angel Flight organizations across the country that do similar services. We fly over 4,000 flights per year, transporting over 1,200 patients. So we've been doing this a while, and we get calls all the time for people that need all sorts of free treatment. And so we're here to help them, and because we've been in this position for a while, we have gained a lot of information about other resources available for no-cost transportation for patients. And ultimately, that's why we're hosting this webinar. According to Health Outreach Partners, transportation is the biggest barrier to healthcare after cost. And we are dedicated to removing that barrier, and we want to raise awareness in the healthcare community that there's other options out there for their patients, their transportation. We know that, if you're a social worker, if you're a case manager, if you're a patient navigator, you are inundated not only with requests, but also with resources, whether it be gas cards or airline vouchers or taxi groups or whatever. And it's a lot to manage, and it's a lot to understand how each different group works. And so we're trying to paint that picture the best we can here. and that's why we're here. So what we're going to cover today is a little bit about charitable aviation, talk a little bit more about what I just described with Angel Flight West and how that fits into a larger scheme of charitable aviation. We're going to talk about common reasons for patient travel, the different types of travel and different resources for each, a few patient stories, and then how important it is to spread the word. And then we'll close by answering some question and answer for anyone that has it. A note too that everything that we discuss and the resources are going to be an ebook afterwards. We'll also send out this PowerPoint to those who attended, so you can have that for your resources. And if you need anything from us, just please ask. Okay, so I told you a little bit about Angel Flight West, and we are one group of charitable aviation that there's literally hundreds of across the country. And many of these charitable aviation organizations exist to help people who need to travel to medical treatment. The transportation is provided by, like I said, volunteer pilots who have access to a plane. So they rent or own their own plane. And these are small planes. So think about like a 4-seat aircraft, inside of which is like a small sports car. These aren't commercial planes, although we'll get into our commercial aviation resources in a little bit. These are people that fly because they love to fly. And volunteer for Angel Flight and other charitable aviation organizations because that's what they love to do. So transportation is provided by those pilots. And then we also have donated tickets from airline organizations. Angel Flight West works with Alaska Airlines. There's a different Angel Flight that works with JetBlue. Southwest Airlines donates vouchers to Angel Flight organizations. And then there's a whole other group called Miracle Flights that purchases airline tickets for people in need of transportation to healthcare, even internationally on occasion. There's also services that do trains and bus and taxi vouchers that are coordinated by similar organizations within the charitable aviation field, and we'll get to that in a little bit as well. So charitable aviation is overlooked. We're busy about doing the work, but not necessarily about promoting ourselves. But like I said, we've been in operation for over 35 per year. Across the country, there's more than 10,000 flights happening per year and more than 6,000 volunteer pilots ready to help. So obviously, because this is a unique form of transportation, we are qualified only to fly certain types of patients, and that you can see on this page. So a lot of people think, when they think air transportation for patients, they're thinking air ambulance services. Our services and the services provided by other charitable aviation organizations are non-emergent because we're using volunteers and we don't have people on standby. We are asking that people be ambulatory and medically stable. Sorry, we require that there be some sort of financial need or other compelling consideration. A lot of patients that we fly have some sort of immunocompromised system or can't endure long drives back and forth from where we're going. Hi, everyone. We also recognizes that serious illness is the leading cause of people filing for bankruptcy in the U.S. So we know that can strain finances really quickly. Even those who are formerly, well off or middle class, having a major medical catastrophe in your life can be very difficult. And we know that for some people, commercial travel is not an option. The immunocompromised thing that I mentioned before is a case where that would happen. Sorry for the technical difficulties there, guys. Thanks for bearing with us. So types of travel needs are across the board. I talked about charitable transportation, but obviously in your hospitals, if you're working for emergency situations, are a huge part of a hospital's business, and that usually comes in the form of air ambulances, airlifts. There is one charitable aviation or air ambulance service that we'll get into later, but most of the time these are being paid by insurance and are very expensive, and they've got crews and aircraft capable of treating people in the air. A lot of people are traveling for second opinions. They live in a rural area, or they're in an area where there's not maybe a specialist in the type of illness they have. So they need to get somewhere else to get that second opinion so they can make educated decisions about their healthcare treatment. Specialized treatment or surgery, as healthcare grows and specialists become more disparate across the country, you have to go to these different areas depending on what illness you have, and a lot of people need to travel for that. Regular appointments for clinical trials or treatments of rare diseases. That's another reason a patient would have to travel repeatedly. Diagnosis of rare diseases. Being with a loved one who's coping with a serious illness or has a terminal condition. There's almost as many people traveling as a caretaker or to be with someone in end stages as there is people needing treatment. Domestic violence relocations, another need for healthcare to travel. So the types of patients are varied as well. We mentioned that emergencies and who those are handled by. That's typically state and local authorities. That's usually not coordinated by you at the hospital, but through an infrastructure, a 911 service, that type of thing. Air ambulances is going to be in that same ballpark. They're going to have to lie down. There's not, like I said, not many low-cost resources. And then there's the medically stable ambulatory patients. These are the patients that are perfect for charitable aviation resource, patients who are medically stable and need to travel for scheduled appointments and have many options they don't have many options for no-cost transportation. And the caregivers or family members traveling to be with a sick or loved one. And obviously the types of travel vary. When Health Outreach Partners did their study, a lot of that focused on local travel. Literally, an elderly person or someone that didn't have the wherewithal to get, a couple city blocks or across town to receive treatment. There's international. Obviously, we're lucky to live in a country that has amazing healthcare resources that many countries don't have, so people are flying here to access those. Domestic long distance, we'll get into each of these more, and domestic regional. The local travel, like I said, this is people just having trouble getting to their appointments, and that varies greatly from community to community. I've mentioned the Health Outreach Partners study a couple of times. There's their website there if you want to. And then the ebook that we'll provide has some more recommendations on how to find those resources in your area. In terms of international, there are few options for no-cost travel to and from locations outside the U.S. I mentioned one earlier called Miracle Flight. It used to be Miracle Flights for a Kid, but they've expanded. And they deal with commercial airline tickets. And essentially what they're doing is actually purchasing the ticket on behalf of the patient. So I did notice that they have recently expanded their services to international flights. So that's a great resource for you. There's also angel flight organizations like Caribbean Islands and in and out of Canada that have taken place too, that can bring people to treatment here. Domestic long distance, we define that as traveling more than $1,000 or $1,000, more than 1,000 miles within the U.S. Now there are some charitable aviation organizations that arrange these. I mentioned one already, which is Miracle Flights with the commercial tickets. There's also a group called Corporate Angel Network that deals with cancer patients only, and they use existing seats on corporate aircraft to transport people to and from treatment that are greater distances. And then there's the other angel flight organizations I mentioned with commercial airline tickets with Southwest, JetBlue, Alaska Airlines, and there's a group called the National Patient Travel Center that has some commercial resources with American Airlines and United. So there's different groups. Again, the ebook will kind of have all that outlined for you, but there's more resources than you would think for patients needing to travel. And trying to contact the airlines for that is like getting sucked into a black hole. So we're here to help navigate that for you. Domestic regional. Now, this is not typically a type of travel that people think of in our experience in the healthcare community, although definitely know that people are traveling to you, 100 miles away, 200 miles away, 300 miles away, and that might be driving 8 hours each way. But it's out of sight, out of mind because they walk into your office and help. But for the overall healing and health of that patient, obviously getting there and back quicker is more valuable for the patient treatment experience. It's more valuable for cutting down your no-shows or late shows or cancellations. It helps you, expand that reach to someone and be like, I really need to go to the hospital, but I just can't get in the car for 16 hours over the course of 2 days and miss 3 days of work. This is really where the charitable aviation niche is perfect for. And what we offer for that is people who have scheduled appointments that are more than 5 days in advance and they're medically stable and ambulatory. So this is your patient that's coming for a specialized treatment. This is your patient that might be in a clinical trial. It's more of outpatient type services than inpatient. We get requests quite frequently from healthcare facilities saying, hey, I've got someone that we're discharging in the next 24 to 48 hours and they don't have a way home. Can you help them? In many cases, we can't because of the turnaround required for us to get the paperwork necessary for medical releases and liability and information specifically about where the patient's going, where they're flying to and from, all the contact info, and then going out and trying to find a volunteer pilot to fit that resource when we're trying to, find 15 others that have been waiting a week is very difficult for us. You can always call and ask. We take everything on a case-by-case basis, but in general, we're looking for that 5 days or more in advance. So I've talked generally about what charitable aviation is. We've talked a little bit about the patients. We've talked about the distance required. So how does this all work? Well, what we're trying to do, again, is remove that barrier of transportation as a barrier to healthcare. And that is, yes, for the patient, but also for you, the requester of that flight or the healthcare professional, because we know that you're busy doing the work of saving lives and helping people. We want to take that component off your plate. So how does it work? The travel schedule patient specifically, where the patient's going to and from, and we find out which airports are closest to that home and to that medical facility. And then we schedule the flight around that appointment, or if they're going one way home or something, we do it based on when they're going home. Again, most often this isn't a 4 to 6 seat airplane, one propeller flying. We have everything from a 2-seat airplane all the way up to personal jets that fly on behalf of Angel Flight. But for the most part, it's that 4 to 6 seat airplane. Passengers often travel with companions, so that's what people ask. All right, can I bring someone else with me? Yes. Can I bring multiple people with me? Maybe. So what happens is, in a 4-seat airplane, it's a physics problem. You have a certain amount of weight in the airplane, and it can take off with a certain amount of power. Typically, 2 passengers, around 400 pounds, no problem for any of our planes. Once you get over that weight or over that total number of people, then we start to kind of shrink the available pool of volunteer pilots are available. Can we do it? Yes. A family, a child, and 2 parents, that's usually pretty easy to accommodate. When we start to get more than that, then we lose the amount of airplanes that can fly. So it becomes more challenging. And we'll get to, our kind of best formula for success as well as what to expect in a little bit. And then in certain areas like Southern California, like Oregon, Seattle area, Salt Lake City, we do offer some ground transportation for your appointment. So, in Salt Lake City, the drive from the small general aviation airport to most of those medical facilities is a good 10 to 15 miles. And some people can't afford cabs, or some cities don't have, something like Uber, or they don't have a smartphone to access those types of things. We set up transportation so they don't have to worry about that. The volunteer driver's there to meet the pilot at the airport, transfer the passenger to their car, drive them to treatment, drive them back after treatment or the next day or whenever their treatment's over and get them home. So we take the request from a patient or a healthcare professional, and we enter that request into a database. There's several information that you can need. You can request a flight on our website at www.angelflightwest.org. The tab at the top says Request a Flight. You can request that directly, or the passenger can request it. We will verify some information through a healthcare professional, and right now that verification is a medical release that needs to be signed by a doctor or nurse practitioner, and a financial need verification. We do take that from the patient, but if you know that their financial situation, that helps as well. So once we get that information, we enter it into our system, and that's when we start looking for volunteer pilots. They get an email notifying them what available pilots are out there. We're emailing them, we're calling them, trying to make sure that we've got that flight covered. And once we find that match, and that's essentially what we are as a volunteer match system, we then let you and the patient know, and then the pilot talks directly with the patient or the companion to make those arrangements, saying, "Hi, I'm Susie Jones. I fly a Cessna 182. This is my tail number. I'm going to meet you at Atlantic Aviation at the Arcata Eureka Airport, and I'm going to be dressed in an Angel Flight hat and red shoes." And they have their, they give them their number and all that type of thing. They tell them what to expect on the flight. Then the patient meets them there. Then they fly to treatment. Once they get to treatment, they have their ground transportation scheduled in advance. They get to the treatment. They get all that life-saving procedure that you amazing folks are doing. And then, sometimes they're staying the night and flying out the next day. Sometimes we can do it same day based on timing, so forth. And very occasionally, we need to cancel a flight. I mentioned kind of the restrictions that we have with weight and balance of patients. Geography can certainly be a concern in some areas. And obviously, weather is a huge inhibitor. We're never going to fly a flight if the conditions aren't safe. So, we make safety our number one issue. And in 35 years of service, we get this question a lot. We've never had an incident with a patient on board. Over 65,000 flights, that's a pretty good record, and we want to keep it that way. So we make safety our priority. We complete more than 90% of our flights. So we're a pretty reliable service, but there are occasions where weather pops up, we can't find a volunteer pilot, or the parameters of the flight needed are outside of our ability that we can't do. So we do recommend having a backup plan, or at least the flexibility to reschedule so we can try to find the right resource for you and or your patient. So the medical release I mentioned earlier, we do require that for obvious reasons. We want to make sure that the patient is safe flying on a small non-pressurized airplane, and that they can get in and out of a small plane without assistance and be seated for the whole thing. Again, this is not an air ambulance. This is non-emergency travel for someone that you can see the pictures there on your screen, someone that can navigate that type of aircraft. So how do you request a flight? I mentioned our website. If you've got a patient who needs to travel for a medical appointment, and I would encourage you, even after this, if you think of someone, to go ahead and fill out that as much as you can on our website so we can follow up with you and try to make sure we can help that patient the best we can. You need to contact the organization in your area. If you're in the western half of the U.S., that's us, Angel Flight West. Otherwise, refer to the ebook that you're going to get. There's also a resource for you online called the Air Care Alliance, and you can visit them. They're on the ebook as well, aircarealliance.org, and that can steer you in the right direction for the charitable aviation group in your area. You can call us or call any of those groups, and you can also request online for most of those. When you call, please have as much information as possible that will help save you time and us time in the end. Things that you'll need for sure are the date and time of the appointment, the name and contact of a physician who can provide the medical release, all the passenger information, and those sort of things will be needed to make the flight happen. And so, who does this help? Like I said, we're flying over 1,200 people a year, patients, not including their companions. and 4,000 flights a year. So we've got a lot of experience, and we hear a lot of amazing stories. And one of those is Talia, who lives in St. George, Utah. She's a little girl who had leukemia, and she was getting treatment at Salt Lake City Children's. And her, middle-income family, her mom and dad were driving her back and forth. But it was tough, especially in the middle of her treatment. Mom would have to pull over because she was driving solo, and a lot helped Talia. She got sick in the back seat. That was quickly draining on both their energy, their time, their finances. So they found out about Angel Flight and said, "Hey, we know that this isn't that far, but do you think someone could fly us up back and forth?" And of course, those shorter flights are the ones our pilots probably love the most because they can do it, quickly and efficiently. So Talia and her mom found us, and we've been able to help them several times. Noah's another one, born with a rare disease, Morquio type A, and he got accepted to a trial at Oakland Children's, but he lived in rural Porterville, California, which again isn't that far, except when you try to drive into the Bay Area, the traffic and everything is crazy. So we're flying them 140 miles, but we're saving them probably 6 hours each way to get him there so he can receive those monthly treatments. Xavier, another child. We serve all ages, by the way. I know these are child because they make for the cutest pictures, but it's all ages. There's no age restrictions on ours. Xavier's a burn survivor that was in Colorado and needed to get to Denver Children's Burn Center, and he's done with this treatment. His burns are healing really nicely, just some minimal scarring and so forth, but his family was always so grateful for those flights because it allowed them to keep their jobs and do the things they needed to do at home, but still get Xavier the level of care he needed for those burns. So here's where you can help us. We're standing by to help you, and I mentioned the ways to do that. And like I said, we'll get the ebook out and other resources out to you. The saddest story we hear is that someone didn't know about us and they couldn't get to treatment, or they had to endure a lot. In fact, one of our board members falls into this category. When she was younger, she was traveling back and forth from Nevada to UCLA in her college years to receive treatment. And she said that part of it alone almost killed her. But luckily, she was able to get the care she needed at UCLA and has been cancer-free now for 30 years. But she didn't know about us. Had she known about us, we could have helped her. And so that's what we want. Was not enough people know about us. We know that. We know that we're serving less than 5% of the need out there for this type of transportation, according to our friends at UCLA and Ronald McDonald House. So we want to serve more people, and that's why we're doing these webinars. So if you could help us reach these people by spreading the word to your colleagues, to your patients, forwarding this ebook to them, forward the link to this presentation, spread the word in your facility. We make presentations all the time, not just online, but we'll come in and do an in-service presentation for your social worker group or your case managers or your nurses, any healthcare professionals. Please contact us after this and we can set one of those up. Also, please let us know what healthcare facility you are here on behalf of, because the other thing we'd like to do is offer continuing education credits. So if there's a few groups that are doing that or that are viewing these, we'd love to help you in that way as well. So I know that was a lot of information in a half an hour, and I know you're all very busy, but I'd love to continue this conversation. So we do have a Q&A window in your chat window that you can click on. Feel free to ask me any questions there. I can answer those now. If the Q&A is not showing, there's a little picture of an icon there that you can click on and it'll show it. And please provide us your feedback as well, even if not in the Q&A widget. You can email me and I'll give you our information here in a little bit. So let me click over there and see if anyone has any questions. All right, Wendy, thanks for your question. It looks like some folks had a few technical difficulties, but it looks like those have been, that was Wendy's question. Sorry about that, Wendy, but thanks for calling in from Partnership Health Center, Missoula. We will follow up with them and see if we can get some continuing education credits. Thanks, Wendy. Appreciate your feedback. Any other questions? Ground transportation is not available in all areas. It currently is available in all of Oregon, in Southern California. We are working on, it is available in Washington, or in Seattle area, sorry, out of Boeing Field, Salt Lake City. But the other areas we've yet to implement that, but we're working hard on trying to find volunteers areas in those areas, as well as partnerships within groups in those areas. So someone had a question about safety. I covered that a little bit earlier. These are all, this is a very safe form of transportation. Actually, statistically, aviation is the safest form of transportation. The reason is there's lots of requirements for someone to be able to fly and to have an airplane current to fly. So all these airplanes go through inspections every year. Pilots go through inspections several times a year. We require extensive training and hours to qualify to even be one of these volunteer pilots. And you know, I think our record itself, it's specifically at Angel Flight West here, of having over 65,000 flights flown. We've never had a patient fatality on board. Well, we've had patients pass away on board from their illness, but never a patient fatality because of an accident. So we're only operating in safe conditions, which is why that weather is always a factor for us, especially over mountainous areas. But that's the answer to the safety question. Intake is available online. Just got that message. So let me click over to those links so everyone can see those. That is that's our information. That's our phone number. The 888 number is 888-426-2643 if you don't have letters on your phone. 888-426-2643. Angelflightwest.org. There's a link right on there to request, or you can learn more about that /passengers. AirCareAlliance.org was that other organization I mentioned that shows the other organizations in other regions. Someone was asking if we can download the slides. We will email those slides out after the event. For those of you who registered, we've got your email address. We'll email those to you, as well as that ebook that I mentioned. This is Lori from Phoenix. For both hospital care as well as clinic. Yes. So we do more than just hospital flights. In fact, we didn't even get into that, but we do domestic violence relocation. We do special needs camps for kids. We do relocation for wounded warriors. We do a lot of different things, and we don't always specify that it has to be hospital. If it's a clinic or if it's a other type of care, yes, we can provide flights to those. We just go through the normal process of requesting it like we do with others. So I hope that answered your question, Lori. Thank you for that. Shortest distances was a question for Angel Flight to do. So again, these are case-by-case basis. The general rule we do, if it's less than 50 miles, and our pilots would kind of raise their eyebrows like, why is someone so short? Then we just need a valid reason for that. Now, certain areas like, we fly a lot of flights in and out of the San Juan Islands in Washington. As a bird fly, sometimes those are like a 20-mile flight, but when you have to get on ferries and navigate yourself around urban areas, that can be difficult. Or in other cases, people just don't have any other options. Like they don't have a car, they live out in the sticks, they've got a little rural airport close to them. but they're only 45 miles away from an urban area. If we know that ahead of time, we can just tell our pilots that, and they'll be like, sure, yeah, I'll go pick them up. So the short answer is, as a general rule, we do 50 miles or more, but if there's a compelling reason for less than that, then just let us know, and we'll look at it. Thanks for your question. Tracy, thanks. Idaho is one area where we've got more pilots than we have patients to fly. So we would love for you to spread that. If we can even come out to St. Luke Children's in Boise and do an in-service presentation, let me know. We've got a great volunteer there named Steve Laughlin that is our local wing leader, and we'd be happy to make a presentation to see if we can help more kids get to your services at St. Luke's at no cost. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and follow up from this webinar. Thank you again for the time. This is our first time doing this, so appreciate you helping us through the technical difficulties here. I'll get better at this as I go along, and hopefully we can find some in-service or continuing education credits to make it more valuable for you. But we're eager to help you, and that's what we're here for. Our hearts are to serve. So call us, request online, whatever you can do, and there's always a person that's going to answer the phone here, and we're here to help and grow to meet more of this need for transportation to access healthcare. So thank you very much again. Really enjoyed meeting a lot of you and presenting with you. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. And and if you ever want to email me, my email is josh@angelflightwest.org. Feel free to email me directly, and I can get you pointed in the right direction here or elsewhere. Thanks so much.